All right, I think we're good. Welcome back. Don't know why I'm doing this thing. Welcome back to another one of these things, where we're just talking about whatever kind of comes to mind. Just another one of these things. Anywho, hope you're having a wonderful Thursday. Just one more day in the week to go. We're almost there. It's almost at the weekend again. Good times. Good times. Lots of stuff I still need to do before this weekend. And still some things to do on this weekend too. So I don't know, maybe the next couple days aren't going to be that great. Maybe Monday will be the actual release and I'll just be, fine after Monday. See how that goes. Preparing for a release this weekend. Finding some issues that still need resolved right up against the wire. So hopefully we get those changes out to our testing environment for tomorrow, and I can schedule some deploys for this weekend. It'd be kind of good. We'll see how that goes. But that's just me. That's just me and my things. Might not be dealing with any of that over where you're at, and that's wonderful. And you're having a great Thursday, and your week is being just swell. And I certainly hope it is. I certainly hope so. Yeah, just chatting today. What to kind of just talk about there. So I think I mentioned a few times why I don't make these videos on Wednesdays. Wednesdays is I guess it will change in the summer. Will it change in the summer? I don't think it has to change in the summer. It'll probably change in the summer still. I do other things in the summer than I do in the fall and the fall, winter, and spring. Anyway, I play in a percussion ensemble at a community college nearby. We do a lot of different stuff. It can be just like really high level, like professional university level, like pieces that we're playing. Other times we're playing just pop tunes that are just really fun and get the audience really hyped or amped about some things. It's like, oh yeah, I know that song and that sounds really cool, and you guys are all being very energetic on stage and stuff. And that's the kind of one of the joys about doing performance in general. At least I think so. That's a part of my philosophy just as a performer. It's like I stopped being a musician after I finished college, and I realized that it's really just a type of entertainer. Like at the end of the day, you're an entertainer. And like when I was in college studying music composition and music performance, like a lot of that preparation is like aiming for playing perfectly, which is another video in all of itself. I have a note here to return to it at some point, talking about perfect performances. But that's for another day. But that was like how I spent a lot of my time in college, was just learning how to play things perfectly. And there's a certain amount of good that can come out of that. Like I know how to play instruments really well now, percussion instruments. Like I play most keyboard instruments like at a professional level at this point. You put something in front of me and some music in front of me, and I'll probably be able to play it for you after a couple reads. But there are some things that kind of fall outside of that, and it's not really a problem with being able to read something necessarily. Well, part of it is like this thing I got yesterday. Getting ahead of myself here. Yesterday we got a new tune that we're playing for an upcoming concert, for our spring concert in May. And it is it's an arrangement of a pop tune, Carlos Santana's Europa. And if you haven't listened to it, probably go give it a listen. It's really good. Santana's just an amazing guitarist. Like he just makes that instrument sing. But it's just really, really good. I've heard the song before. It's been a while since I've listened to it. And when I was listening to it yesterday, when we got the arrangement where I'm playing the guitar part on xylophone, I just started kind of cringing a little bit as I was like reading through it, listening to how Santana actually plays the thing. And it's like clearly this person was trying really hard to, we'll do a couple things, match Santana's notes, his melody, fairly well, but then other times just plain giving up on it, which is just funny to me. Like at some points it's just like, yeah, you're doing like normal things where it's like, yeah, I'm totally getting like the normal melody, and it's just the normal like chorus or a decently complex riff or something, but as soon as it gets into solos, it's just like super oversimplified, and I'm just like, like you don't feel the kind of, it's not emphasis, that's what I'm looking for, power behind those notes as you do when you hear Santana playing the guitar during his solo. And it's not like when you don't want to write a solo, it's fine to say just improvise, but it doesn't say that. It's like written so that it's close enough without actually being it, and evoking that sense of emotion that comes out of actually playing what Santana plays during his solos. It was like I didn't even have to play it. I didn't have to play a single note to know that what was written was an approximation, and it just wouldn't capture the right emotion. As soon as I saw the notes on that page, I was just like, I'm pretty sure I'm going to want to listen to this song over and over again and just play it from memory. Like, that's going to be the best way that I can do this. Because one, I don't know if you know what a xylophone sounds like. Maybe you can go, I'm not going to do that here. Maybe when I start actually editing my videos, I'll like put in little like tidbits or something, and just drop like a clip from something else, like just mid while I'm talking, and just do jump cut back to where I'm doing. Man, like, one, that's also a nice thing here, because it shows that I'm thinking beyond just talking in front of you right now. It's like, okay, I'm like working on my engagement with the camera, but now I'm like actively thinking of ways that's like, yes, I can enhance what I'm doing here by incorporating other things. I'm happy there. Like, that's good. That means this is actually working, me talking with you over and over again. Cool. Well, that's nice. That's a good little thing. Makes me feel a little better about like the not being able to accurately convey a musical thought now. Anyway, back to that topic. And I'm like doing this like motion thing, so I'm probably just making people like sick or something by throwing my hands back and forth at the camera over and over again. But if you haven't heard a xylophone, it's very dry. It's very dry, and it's very tingy. It's not like a guitar, or at least it's not like a well-played guitar. And like, I've played these instruments for a long time, and I know ways that I can make them sound warmer, make them sound, the word I want to use is like sinewy. It's like smooth. Make a xylophone sound smoother. I would prefer to play this part on a vibraphone, but if it's written for xylophone, then we'll give it a shot. Initially, it was actually written for steel pan, so like that's a warmer sound anyway. Xylophone isn't a good stand-in for steel pan in most cases, in my opinion. But that's what we're dealing with here. So I'm like reading it through, and I'm like, what can I do? What can I do here to make this work? And it just kind of hit me as kind of strange, or maybe slightly impressive. Like, it's been so long since I've had to think about music in that way. Like, if I hadn't heard Santana's rendition, I'd have just like been reading it down and been like, this is a really poorly annotated arrangement, because it's really not that well notated, like in the sheet music. It's unfortunate. It's kind of hard to read. It's like stuff that should be written in a more straightforward way, or written with really awkward rests in between. It's really weird. Like, instead of writing eighth notes, there's a lot of like 16th note, 16th rest right afterwards, as if to emphasize a shortness of the sound, which yeah, probably makes sense on guitar. It makes no sense on xylophone. You don't dampen a xylophone. You don't like go to hit a note and then stop the note. You can do that on vibraphone, but you don't do that on xylophone typically. It'd be really weird if you were doing that. But it's been a long time since I've had to kind of think about that. I guess maybe because we're like when we're introduced to like new songs or something, I'm just sort of like, okay, I haven't heard this before, or I'm just going to read this down and just play it kind of as the composer intended. In this case, it's the composer and the performer. Not necessarily the arranger, but like Carlos Santana and how he would play it. It's been a long time since I've had to approach a piece by saying it's like, I appreciate the arranger going through some effort of mapping the notes out, but this isn't as helpful as just understanding and learning from the person who originally played it. Understanding the stuff you can't write down about music. It sounds like a really weird thing to say. That was one of the things that like was brought up in a conversation I'd had with one of our guest artists 3 years ago maybe, where like one of the things that she was mentioning was notes are like great. They're pretty helpful. It's a nice way to understand how to generally play something. But if all we needed was notes to play music, people wouldn't play music. It's the stuff that's not written. How you make that instrument actually sing. How you make it evoke certain feelings or tension or release or just a desired emotion, or how you can approach something. There are very subtle ways that you can play music to bring something else out. Like you can have, and it's not even just the difference between like somebody who's like a master and somebody who's a beginner at an instrument. It's just at all levels. Once you realize that you can, like even somebody who's like really, really good, it can be like, I want something to sound dry. That's what I want here. That doesn't mean they're sounding like a beginner. It just means that they are wanting something to sound a certain way. And when you realize that, you can do, honestly, the possibilities are limitless. But yeah, I'm not really quite sure. And after talking about this for a little bit, I don't think there's really much of a takeaway here. I was just kind of surprised to like be presented with a song that wasn't like a song where I was like, I need to try a little bit at this. It's been a while since I've had to do something like that. Usually it's like, here, have this thing and read it down. And I'm like, okay, cool. I basically sight read this thing. There's probably about 10% more I could be doing here to make this better. And it's just kind of the part of like playing with a community group, that we have a really good group, but at the same time, it's not collegiate level. It's not university level, for most of the people. And that's just because they're students starting out looking to transfer to other schools, or they're community members. They're not musicians. They're people who played music at some point in their life and are like, I'd like to try it again. And you know what? I friggin' love being in a group like that. It's like, those are the people you want to be around. It's people who just love music. That's why they're there. Like, that's great. Like, we need more community groups like that. When people like look at me like, why do you play with a group like that? Like, you're good. You can play with other people, like just professional people. And I'm like, yeah, they like music too, but those are people who are doing it to make money. These people don't make money doing this. They're doing it just because they freaking love music. They like bringing music to other people around them, and that's freaking cool. And they're not being like paid to do it. They just show up because they care about it. That's usually nice people to be around. But I'm not used to being given a piece that like makes me think like that. Like sometimes we'll get something that's like legitimately difficult, and I'm like, okay, my sight reading got me like 60% of the way there, and I'm gonna have to play this 5 more times than normal to get to where I want to be. But this one's like, This one's a study. This one's like going out there and trying to find the same emotion that was being conveyed by the original performer because it's just not captured in the notes. That's kind of neat. Know that when you're listening to music or playing music, that like people do think a lot about that. Like when you're putting thought into a performance, there's a lot that can go into that. It's a lot more than just reading notes. Like with anything, like it's probably something we don't think about too much. It's just like people baking a cake or people fixing some problem with a house or plumbing, or like writing a program or something. All of that, like when you're approaching it from the outside, you're just kind of like, why couldn't you do this thing? It seems like it was just like these 3 steps that you had to do. And music's no different from the outside looking in. It's like, why can't you just play the notes on the instrument right? Geez. But there's a lot that goes into that. And sometimes when you're faced with things that are just like the notes don't get you anywhere near there, you have to really dig deep into your skill set to really make that make it more than the arrangement ever could be, just in how it's written. But yeah, thoughts, things. Anywho, we'll call it that. Hope you're having a wonderful Thursday, and yeah, we'll catch you in the next one. See ya.